Hello and welcome to this week's episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman. And on this week's episode, we're going to finally answer the battle cry of the chiropractic profession. You've heard me say it before. For years and years and years, we all know the battle cry is, I just need more new patients. And we've talked about this before, and we've talked about keeping people in your office longer for the right reasons. But on today's show, we're going to talk to the guru, in my opinion, of Facebook advertising. And before you say, I know it works or it doesn't work, listen to what this man has to say. If he doesn't absolutely blow you away with the knowledge that he shares for free, then I'll be shocked. He doesn't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach, but he does utilize a data-driven system that specifically focuses on predictable acquisition of great quality new patients for your practice. Welcome to Season 3 of For the Love of Chiropractic. Season 1 has 60 episodes of practice management tips to help you build the best practice possible. Season 2, 3 keys of my success, 50 interviews with the most successful chiropractors from around the world. Season 3, resources for your success. So let's listen up and learn how to build a great business. So I had the opportunity to catch up with Neil Shoney by phone. Neil, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh my God, thank you for taking the time and making the time to join me today so we can talk about your specialty, which is Facebook advertising. So before we get started, and as I mentioned in the introduction, I'll ask you, so how long have you been doing this?
So I've been running ads myself for around 14 years, somewhere in that ballpark. Might have been a little bit later than that now as well, a little bit longer. But I've been running Facebook ads for service-based businesses for about 12 or 13 years now. And I've been coaching service-based businesses for over a decade.
Fabulous. Now, in the conversation that we had before we started recording, one of the questions that I asked you was, how did you get into this? It's quite a niche business, Facebook advertising. It's a big world out there. There's a lot of different ways to attract, clients, customers, patients. And this is a very specific niche that you have obviously just as close to perfection as possible. How did you get into this?
Well, not really the traditional way I wouldn't have thought, which is I didn't study marketing. I never wanted to teach anybody Facebook ads. I didn't even run Facebook ads myself when I first started my first business. But I launched straight out of university. I launched Scotland's biggest ever health and fitness exhibition. And I signed my life away for hundreds of thousands of pounds that I didn't have in contracts, and just thought if I build it, people will come. I needed to sell somewhere in the region of about 4,000 tickets just to break even on the event. And about 5 or 6 months into running this event, I wasn't running Facebook ads, but I was doing everything that everybody else does, which is posting lots on social media, cold outreach, emails, all of those different things. And we'd sold like 52 tickets with
Ouch.
4 months still to go. Yeah, exactly. So with a little bit of money that I still had in the bank, Facebook ads was literally just a roll of the dice. And I don't know if it was intuition. I don't know if it was just luck. But the way that I set up ads to test things and see what worked back then is extremely close to the testing format that we still use today, which is kind of shocking. But in the end, we ended up selling thousands and thousands of tickets. We hit our break-even point. We had some of the biggest companies in the industry attend the event. We completely sold out of all the exhibition stands. I scaled it for the next 4 years and then sold it to the country's biggest event organizer. And
Nice.
we didn't do TV advertising. We didn't do radio. We didn't do billboards, all the usual things that are done in the exhibition space. We literally just ran Facebook ads.
Wow. Right. And you had told me that story before, and I made a note of it. Like I had to ask you again, because I love hearing you tell the story. That is, you stumbled upon absolute gold and then turned the gold into platinum, which is just fantastic. I so admire you for that. That is just terrific. So Some of the other things that we talked about, we'll be digging into more specifically. But you said something that I just found fascinating, again, in our pre-conversation that I want to start with, which is, tell me what chiropractors specifically, because I know you have a lot of different niches that you work with, and chiropractors are one of the specialists that you work with. In your experience, what is it that chiropractors, most of them, get wrong when they're trying to do this themselves?
So there's a few things, and many of them, none of them are anybody's fault, but even more so the ones where Facebook have been a little bit sneaky lately, made some changes. There's a really, really big one that most service businesses, and especially local businesses, are not aware of that Facebook changed. And that is that when you set a parameter for how far from your chiropractic place of work, how far out are you willing to advertise? If you were to say 2 miles or 3 miles or 4 miles or 10 miles, it's up to you. But a year ago or 2 years ago, that would have been set in stone. Whereas now, unless you know the right buttons to click, Facebook only uses that as a suggestion, which means that you may have a physical premises and you may be running advertising on the other side of the country.
You're kidding.
Yeah, that's a big problem that's happening with local businesses. A lot of local businesses are talking about Facebook advertising no longer working for them, and sometimes they're just, one click away from being able to get it working exactly how it used to. And so if anybody here is, have ran Facebook ads before, even if you haven't run ads before, you're going to encounter this. There's only 3 steps of running a campaign. There's the campaign itself, the campaign level. So what type of campaign do you want to run? Do you want to run a sales campaign, lead campaign, etc.? Then the middle step is who. So who is going to see your ads and where they're going to see it? So that's your audience for easiness of understanding. And then the third step is your ads. So that's the thing that people are actually going to see. So the image, the copy, where do you want to send them? Well, in that middle step, there's something that does not even look like a button. It's in the middle of the page and it says, further limit the reach of my ads. And I know what you're thinking right away. Facebook has positioned that in a way in which it feels so unclickable. Why would you want to further limit the reach of your ads?
Right. No, I want a bigger reach. No, you don't.
Exactly. But if you click on that, it's going to give you the option to go back to the original targeting options that were there a year ago, 2 years ago. And what you're going to see is that where you have said within 5 miles of my practice, run these ads, there's a box that is going to pop up and it's already going to be ticked and it's going to say use as a suggestion. And if you uncheck that box, you are now going to set in stone that Facebook cannot run advertising outside of that 5 mile parameter. And it is a complete game changer for local businesses like this.
Wow. Yeah, obviously, because if somebody is, in a relatively dense population area and they're running that ad even 50 miles away, that's not your patient. They're not coming to see you unless they happen to live one place and work another. So, let alone 100 or 200 miles. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on. And then from there, do you want me just to run through some more?
What you said so far is absolute gold. But yeah, absolutely. If there's more you want to say, please keep going.
Okay, so the second one is with the offer. Now, sometimes chiropractic practices are running simple ads, Facebook lead ads most commonly, where people don't even go to your website. They just open up a Facebook form. They put in their name, email address, and phone number, and essentially they're requesting a callback. And a lot of practices will be inundated with leads when they do this, and they'll feel that that's quite good. Like, wow, look at the amount of leads that we got today. We got 32 leads, and we didn't even spend that much money. Mm-hmm. But the downside is that they spend all day, every day trying to phone, trying to refone again, and trying to just get hold of anybody. When they finally get hold of 5-10% of those leads, those leads very often don't even remember filling in the form.
Sure.
It's very, very low quality. And it can be a complete time sap for the business, for the team, and, just an energy drain for the business owner as well as the team, going through that mode of lead generation. What we found is best is to have an offer for the first session. That's it. It's the way in which you get the lowest cost per acquisition whilst actually getting somebody to commit to being there. And so that could be, 30% off your first session, 50% off your first session. A lot of practices worry about it devaluing, but once they see that somebody who's willing to discover you through a Facebook ad where you're looking for them and not the other way around, and actually get their credit card out in that moment, that's a really, really good quality lead. And because they're putting their hand in their pocket, they're spending money, they're not missing that appointment. I mean, maybe you'll have 1 in 100 that don't turn up, but the majority are turning up. So there's no guesswork with free sessions or chasing leads. This is something that can be relatively automated and off your hands. And you can just wait for that.
So now I got to ask a question, because obviously, I've been on the internet, and I'm on Facebook, and something pops up and I go, oh, that looks really cool. Now you're saying, reach in your pocket and go get your credit card. But I assume, and I want you to teach me, make sure I'm correct, that that by clicking on it, it will link to your PayPal or to a preloaded credit card that you already have. So it's not that the person has to get out of their chair and go over to the to where their briefcase is and find their credit card. That is a cleaner, easier, more streamlined, or is that not the case? They actually have to go get the physical card.
No, they probably don't. In most cases, when we're doing this with clients, we'll have it where we send them to a page on your website. Mm-hmm. Very often set up specifically for this reason, so people can't discover it otherwise. But we'll send them to a place where essentially it is a little bit about the offer, and then it'll take them to the checkout where they can secure their space, and then they can book in for their appointment at step 3. And when they go to the checkout, most checkout processors online now will have things like link built into it. So that person can basically check a box and it'll give them the options of the cards that they have there. You can also attach things like Apple Pay, so there's options to make it seamless.
Perfect. I knew you'd have the answer to that. That's fantastic. And again, I don't want to cut you off. Our time is running, and we're about halfway through the time that we have. And there's so many more things I want to ask you. Is there anything else that you feel you need to say before we go into some other notes that I have to ask you about?
Just a really quick one. If you're going to create any ads, and so actually think about like the images and the videos and things like that, the best performing ads that we find in this space are, number one, video testimonials. So if you don't have any of those, think about, giving one of your clients that you've worked with for a while, give them a free session or a half price session in exchange for a video testimonial. It is absolute gold. The second thing is video, even if it doesn't have any sound on, but a clip, even if it's 10 seconds long, of a session in practice is really powerful. And then the third best thing that you can use is at least a image of something happening, like a session in practice. Static images that have white text and black background or vice versa and things like that. They work really well in the coaching and consulting space, but in this space it actually doesn't. That little, view behind the hood, if you will, being able to see it in practice is a major driver of getting people comfortable with clicking off of Facebook and actually putting their credit card details in.
I love that you know that and share this information so openly. It's just about helping more people.
That's it.
So one of the things that specifically popped up, when I was reading about you and you and I were first chatting, is what you call the 2-5-5 method. Could you discuss that in more detail?
Sure. So when you're setting up a Facebook ads campaign and, you go to Ads Manager, you hit the green create button, and you follow all the steps, and it might take you half an hour, and you feel great about it because it feels like you've gone into such incredible detail. Well, once you hit publish, what you have there is what I call a 1-1-1 campaign. So that is one campaign going to one audience with one ad. And the problem with this, and this is what 99.5% of people that run Facebook ads in general, this is the way that they're running ads. The problem with it is that you have to hope that everything from the ad copy to the image, to the button text you used, to the audiences that you chose, to the placements that you chose, all the way back to the campaign level where you had to choose whether this was a sales campaign, lead campaign, etc. You literally have to hope that every single piece of the puzzle that you best guessed is correct for you to have a 50% chance of this working.
That's a lot.
Put it this way, I've been running ads for a very, very long period of time. If I was running ads the way that most people are, I would still fail 50% of the time as well. It's basically often a point.
Ouch.
Whereas with the Shoney 255 method, it wasn't exactly like this the first time that I ran ads, but it wasn't far off. It was quite similar. I suppose it was more like a 155 campaign, but the 255 is, first of all, two campaigns. So it's a campaign for people who know who you are and a campaign for people who don't know who you are. So that means that we target people who are local, who have never heard of us, and we target people who have, in the other campaign, people who have engaged with our Instagram or visited our website or joined our email list. We can target all of these people with Facebook and Instagram ads. And so immediately, by having two campaigns and splitting your budget between them, you've already given yourself two chances to find a winner rather than one. However, if inside each of those campaigns, instead of just having one audience, you test 5 individual audiences. So they're called ad sets, but essentially it's 5 audiences. Well, in that case, I don't need to be a mastermind. I don't need to be the person who knows absolutely everything about who is inside Facebook's audiences, because we don't know. It's like they give us a bunch of interests to choose from, but we don't know who's actually inside them. So instead of just being like, well, I know best, people who are interested in X would be interested in chiropractic services, instead I can choose 5 different audiences, and Facebook will literally show me by where people are buying. They'll tell me which the best audiences are.
Ooh.
So immediately, I now have this disproportionate advantage over every competitor of mine, because they're throwing things against the wall to see what sticks with one audience. And if it doesn't work, they assume Facebook ads don't work. Whereas I can have 4 losers, and the 5th audience could be a killer. And all I need to do is turn off the other 4.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes into the winner. It's as simple as that.
Oh, I love that.
That final step there with 255 is having 5 ads rather than just one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mentioned there that chiropractors should use video testimonials, video clips of a session in practice, and an image of, like a static image of a session in practice as well. Well, if you were to have 5 variations in there, number 1, we get to do the same as we did with the audiences, which is find winners and losers, right? That's a good thing. But there's another reason for this part as well, which is you've probably had that experience before where you see an ad, you think this looks really good, you click through to the website, but you don't buy the thing. And then Facebook starts to hit you really hard with adverts on the other side.
Yep.
Now, if you had set up your ads as a 1-1-1 campaign, Facebook would be forced to put the same ad in front of the same person over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got the Shoney 255 method, they show that person ad number 2. Then they show them ad number 3. Then they show them ad number 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's much easier for us to re-engage people and also overcome a lot of objections, because, we can hit them with a static image that grabs their attention, gets them really interested in the 50% off per session, they click through to the website, they don't take action. Maybe the next ad that they see is a video testimonial. And that person says, the best thing that I ever did for my life and my health and my energy and my wellness and everything was reaching out and booking in for that first session. And instantly the person goes, sold, done.
Yep. Oh, I love that. I love that.
So it's a big, big advantage. Basically, it creates the opportunity where you have 50 ways to find a winner.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, we hope that 45 of them are winners. Right?
Sure, of course.
The options that you chose are great, and we hope all the ads that you chose were great. But even if this was done poorly, if you merely looked at where the results were coming from, where are the sales coming from on your dashboard, you don't need to be a professional Facebook advertiser to just see where the results are, and turn off everywhere where results are not occurring.
Yeah,
you would have a very optimized campaign.
That you lay it out so clearly. It makes such sense. All right, I've got to ask you a couple more questions. So obviously your specialty is Facebook advertisements, and you've done really well with it, and you've done well for your clients. So there are other ways to look to advertise to potential new patients on the internet. There's Google ads, for example. You can use Instagram. So when you talk about Google versus Facebook, do you recommend that doctors use one, use both, you use all avenues? What do you recommend?
So I mean, if you're really going for it, I would use both. Google ads are fantastic as well. Google ads, the downside of them is that they're really expensive. The upside is that we get to meet people exactly when they're looking for our services. And so as long as you have, for instance, if you're running Google ads and you're sending them just to your website homepage and you're like, Google ads don't really work for me. It's not that the Google ads don't work. It's that you're sending them to a place that's not really optimized to get that person excited about choosing you over the other three options that were just shown to them. Whereas if you ran Google ads and you did it as, anybody within 10 miles who specifically searches for chiropractor near me, right? That's the search term. Mm-hmm. And it's the one that's probably the most common. If you are willing to spend a lot to get that click, but instead of just sending them to your homepage or a place where they can book a full price session, if you gave them the 30% off session page or 50% off session page, number one, you can optimize that Google ads and get more people clicking through. So your cost per click, if you will go down. But second of all, you would get a much higher percentage of people who go through your Google ads to take action and actually book in for that session. And so when done right, Google is fantastic. Facebook is amazing for scale, because we can reach people that, don't even know that they're looking for a chiropractor. They just know that they've got a lot of things going wrong and they're seeking out a solution, but maybe they don't even know they're looking for a chiropractor. And we can get in front of those people as well. So using both of them is the way to maximize for sure.
I love that. So, you've talked about that Google ads can be expensive and how to maximize them. So how much do you recommend that a doctor be spending on a, say, monthly basis?
Well, the way that I say this to all of my clients is everybody should start small. It doesn't matter how big or small your business is. Everybody should start small and only spend, $30, $40 a day max on their ads at the start. And the reason why you would do that is because you want to see what works and what doesn't work before you start to throw any serious money behind it. And so if you spend just, $30 per day on your ads, for instance, and you, after 7 days, you find that by refining things, turning off certain audiences, you can acquire a client much less than what they're paying. So from the first session, maybe you're making double your money or triple your money, and you know that everything downstream is profit. You're going to be in a great position.
That makes sense.
At that point, you can say, okay, how fast can we scale this thing? And so the whole angle of having a marketing budget, I'm kind of anti-marketing budgets because if you have a system that every single time you put in $1, you get 3 out immediately, and you know that let's say 60% of those turn into longer term clients and it's all upside, it's almost like, well, how fast or slow do you want to scale? Yeah. And do you have any plans to open up second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth facilities. And if you do, then this is a very replicatable system once you've got it sorted for one practice.
Sure. All right. I love that. Okay, so I have two final questions. You've talked about going through and customizing the ads, and you've talked about looking at the dashboard to see what happens. Are those services that you do for your clients, or you teach them how to do it and they do it themselves, or both? What does that look like?
So we do both. We have a program that's really close coaching. We don't have anything that is hands off and you just buy a course and you do it. I actually think that those just shouldn't be in the market, because a lot of this is about getting feedback on things. Like, we template everything, but there's always optimization. So if I give you a template, you're going to edit it, make it your own, send it back to me, and there's inevitably going to be one or two things that I can tweak with it to make it better, or even more compliant as well, which is an important part of this process.
Sure.
And then once your ads are up and running, then it goes into, well, how do you analyze what you see on screen? And so we give our clients feedback every 3 days. So every 3 days we look at their ads and we tell them what to do next if they're in the coaching. And if we're managing their ads, because we do both, we're in there 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, and just taking action on exactly what we see.
Makes perfect sense. So, Neil, sadly, our time is coming to an end. I have to ask, if somebody loves what they've heard you say and they have more questions, they want more information, they want to get in touch with you, or they say, hey, he's the guy, I need him. How do they find you? How do they get in touch with you? How would they get started? And don't say go to look on Facebook and wait to see an ad.
Well, unfortunately, if you go to Facebook or Instagram and you go to my profile, you're going to see how my ads work pretty quickly, which is you visit my Instagram page and you'll start seeing my ads within about 4 minutes. But if you go to my Instagram, for instance, it's actually a very good place to go, because a lot of the different options to learn from me, whether you're interested in, seeing if it's a good fit for me to help you, or right down to discovering my YouTube channel, other free resources, they're all in the link in bio on Instagram. So if you go to my Instagram at Neil Shoney Mac, so it looks like Neil's Honey Mac, but it's not that. So Neil Shoney Mac, then you can click the link in bio, and there is all the options there to go in whichever direction is right for you.
Perfect. Neil, I can't thank you enough for sharing your knowledge, your time, your wisdom. This has just been absolute, as I said, I mean, you turned gold into platinum. And I can't thank you enough for spending your time with me and sharing all this, with our audience and the chiropractic profession.
No, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. And that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.